throughout the country and around the world, there are an increasing number of high-capacity express bus systems that are running on dedicated lanes as this technology is gaining increasing popularity. Buses have many advantages over trains for moving large numbers of people in the city. One of the problems with buses is that they have a negative public image as some kind of diesel fuel consumer, smoke-belching, antiquated machine. But there are many modern buses that have a clean, quiet ride, and that will only improve in the future as the technology develops. When you think of a bus, you naturally would think of today's buses that we see on the city streets. But of course, there will be tremendous improvements in bus technology, and we're showing you just a few examples of the kinds of buses that are in operation in other cities around the world, and some futuristic designs of buses that will be available in the near future. Buses don't have to run on diesel engines. There's a big trend for buses running on natural gas, which is very low polluting. And buses of the future will almost certainly be running on electricity. An expanded and improved Honolulu bus system can do much more to help our traffic than building an expensive elevated heavy rail train. And the bus system can be expanded quickly and at much less cost than building an ineffective train. One of the big advantages of an express bus system over a heavy rail is that the buses can circulate in the residential communities and pick up passengers close to where they live, and then get onto an exclusive bus right-of-way, travel at a high speed without having to stop every mile at a station, and get to the workers' destination area in a very short period of time. With an express bus system, there are much fewer transfers necessary for the passenger and fewer stops along the way, and thus you're getting to your destination much more quickly and more easily. A well-planned bus service could pick you up near home, bring you on a short ride, perhaps to a bus station, where with one transfer you get on a bus that is going close to your final destination, riding on exclusive lanes that will be free from traffic. Alternatively, commuters could drive their car from home to a nearby transit station, perhaps at a regional shopping mall, and park for the day, catching an express bus directly to their destination. The whole island can benefit from this expanded bus system rather than one narrow leeward corridor that would get a heavy rail. The flexibility of express buses allows different kinds of combinations and running operations. For example, the bus service could begin with local circulation route in mixed traffic on local streets in the neighborhood, and then proceed on a bus lane and then circulate once again on a transit priority system in the downtown. Because of the bus's smaller size than a train, it's easier to fill a bus with passengers going from a common origin to a common destination. Hence, it's easier to organize express bus service rather than express train service. And buses can deviate from routes to avoid accidents or traffic jams, and buses can overtake one another, whereas trains cannot. An express bus system can have bus stops in which the buses pull over and get out of the way while they're loading and unloading passengers, and the mainline express buses can pass right by without slowing down or stopping. Like other motor vehicles, buses are adaptable and can take people from close to the actual beginning of their trip to close to the end of their trip. And as traffic and demographic patterns change, so too can bus routes. On the other hand, rail is static and substantially more limited in its ability to offer door-to-door service. You might be surprised to learn that an express lane for buses can carry many more passengers than a rail line. An express lane for buses can hold 500 vehicles per hour, which would carry 25,000 seated passengers, unlike the proposed rail system, which would carry 7,000 people per hour. Bus lanes theoretically could carry even 1,000 vehicles per hour, And with the buses, you have a much better chance of having a seat, being sitting down and comfortable during your ride, unlike most rail systems where 70% of the riders are standing up at rush hour. Some of the other advantages of buses over rail include greater flexibility for buses. Since rail lines are fixed, they cannot respond to changes in employment and land use, whereas bus service can be rerouted and shifted over time to correspond with the changing needs of a city. And the bus system can provide long-distance service without requiring transfers. A bus rapid transit system can be phased in one step at a time, and improvements can be made gradually. Operations can begin where it's most needed and expand out from there. Buses and other vehicles can share an express bus lane, such as carpools, high-occupancy vehicles, van pools, emergency vehicles. And buses and other vehicles can drive around a disabled bus, whereas all trains must come to a screeching halt if there's a disabled train on the track. A study by the United States General Accounting Office concluded that bus rapid transit presents an attractive option for mass transit and has several advantages over rail systems: a lower capital cost for construction and a lower operating cost, and also a higher speed. The Honolulu Rail would cost as much as $300 million per mile, whereas you can improve a lane for buses on arterial streets for $1 million per mile. Or you could build a new lane for buses. A busway would cost about $14 million per mile, again compared to the Honolulu Rail system at $300 million per mile. So it's just a huge difference. Advocates for rail like to claim that the operating cost for rail is less than that for bus rapid transit. When you factor in all of the numbers, it turns out that the BRT systems are less expensive to operate than light rail. And this is partly due to their greater ridership and their greater flexibility. The buses don't have to be running all day empty the way trains will be in the non-peak hours. Studies comparing the operating costs of rail versus bus rapid transit have been conducted in Dallas and Denver, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, San Diego, and San Jose, and in all cases they found on average the bus rapid transit costs 80% less per mile to operate than rail. These same cities were also studied regarding the speed of the system of the bus rapid transit versus rail, and they found that the speed advantage of buses was about 50% faster on average than rail. The bottom line is that rubber tire transit on roadway lanes is in nearly all cases more cost-effective, more flexible, and enables a higher level of service to riders than rail. A bus lane can be built much more quickly and much more cheaply than a rail line, and they can be easily repaired. The bus lane is typically a lane of asphalt compared to an assemblage of rails and power supplies and signals and thousands of electronic components that go into a heavy rail system. Buses are built by hundreds of highly competitive manufacturers all around the world, whereas rail cars are custom designed by just a handful of companies worldwide, often subject to no-bid contracts. Here's a graphic that shows the price and cost effectiveness of building elevated heavy rail versus building out a bus rapid transit system. And you can see you can get a lot more bang for the buck with buses. Bus rapid transit system can cost up to 100 times less than an elevated rail system. This data comes from the Bus Rapid Transit Planning Guide, published by the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, a nonpartisan, nonprofit think tank. That same report goes on to say, one of the most fundamental determinants of system usability to the customer is the extent of the overall network. A few kilometers of high technology will likely not coerce commuters into becoming customers. A limited system of only a few kilometers will mean that most of a person's essential destinations are not reachable by the system. When systems form a complete network across the expanse of a city, then the ability to function without using a private vehicle is considerably higher. From the customer's perspective, a full network serving most major origins and destinations is fundamental to system usability. A system consisting merely of a few kilometers or a single corridor makes the system relatively unusable to most customers. Forcing a customer to live, work, and fulfill all major daily activities in one corridor is typically an unrealistic assumption. This information on the superiority of buses might come as a shock to many people who think somehow that trains carry more people, they're sleeker, they're modern, they're energy efficient, when in fact none of this is true. We need to vastly expand our bus system. We need more buses with some exclusive lanes, more frequent service, additional routes, express lines with better connections, and lower fares. Honolulu's present bus system is often claimed to be one of the nation's best, which is another myth that stands in the way of true solutions. Our bus system can be drastically improved. The former administrator of the FTA, Gordon Linton, said that a modern bus rapid transit system shows, quote, how planning and technological devices will allow buses to operate with the speed, reliability, and efficiency of rail vehicles at a fraction of the cost. One of the nation's great transportation planners, John Kane of Harvard, sums it up by saying, with few exceptions, studies of the cost-effectiveness of alternative modes of transportation have found that some form of express bus system operating on either an exclusive right-of-way or a shared lane would have lower costs and higher performance than either light or heavy rail systems in nearly all, if not all, of American cities. The tendency of policymakers to ignore the abundant evidence on the superiority of high-performance bus systems is explained by a prior commitment to rail and a willingness to cook the numbers until they yield the desired results.
My most serious objection to the HART proposal and the analyses that purport to justify it, however, is the so-called alternatives analysis. The principal weakness of the alternatives analysis and the benefit-cost analyses associated with it is that they provide no assurance that the best alternative has been considered at all. In my introductory remarks, I described the bus transit alternatives included in the alternative analyses as straw men. I see no reason to recant. In this regard, it is more than a little significance that the most serious bus proposal advanced, the so-called CERT plan, was not even considered by the alternatives analysis. Now, I've been unable to assess in any meaningful way the CERT proposal, but it appears to have been crafted by persons who believe in the potential of bus rapid transit and who are attempting to devise a feasible and workable alternative. The bus alternatives included in the alternative analyses, in contrast, appear to have been devised by persons completely unsympathetic to bus rapid transit and whose principal objective was to discredit the concept for Honolulu. In conclusion, I feel strongly that before the HART proposal can be properly evaluated, there's a need to compare it to a serious bus rapid transit alternative designed by competent professionals who are committed to developing a bus rapid transit system that would serve Honolulu's current and probable future needs.
The city of Curitiba in Brazil was a great pioneer in the development of bus rapid transit systems. Their population in the metropolitan area is about 3 million people, and every day about 1 million people ride the bus rapid transit system to get to work. The fare collection and bus stop system is very sophisticated. You pay before the bus arrives and get into this bus stop tube, and then you can board in 3 different doors of the bus simultaneously. So loading and unloading is very fast. The bus system is so successful in Curitiba that it's used by 85% of the population, and it's been an inspiration to many other cities around the world developing similar systems. And the city of Curitiba has used their bus rapid transit system to help shape the city with transit-oriented development along the express bus lines. The land within 2 blocks of the transit bus arteries is zoned for high density, and then beyond those 2 blocks, the density zoning tapers off as you get further from the bus line. They have about 1,100 buses that make 12,000 trips every day, and these are operated by private bus companies, all of whom make a profit on the operations. Here's a bus being developed in China. It's actually a straddling bus that hovers above the traffic and is able to move large numbers of people without blocking any traffic down below. This China straddling bus is being developed for Beijing, and it can carry hundreds of passengers and has a roomy interior. This bus is powered by electricity with an innovative system where it charges up at every bus stop, and that gives it enough power to get to the next bus stop, so there's no overhead wires that are necessary. It might seem futuristic, but this is one example of the new kinds of technology that are coming available soon.